There is a habit that quietly shapes the quality of your life every single day. Most people never notice it. They assume their stress comes from work, relationships, responsibilities, or the unpredictability of life itself. But often the real cause is far more subtle. It is the habit of constantly arguing with reality. Think about how often the mind says things like this should not be happening. This is unfair. Things should be different. People should behave differently. Life should go according to my expectations. At first, this reaction seems natural. When something goes wrong, the mind automatically resists it. But that resistance is where suffering begins. Pain is part of life. Disappointment, loss, uncertainty, mistakes, and change are unavoidable experiences. Every human being encounters them. Yet pain and suffering are not the same thing. Pain is the event itself. Suffering is the mental struggle against the event. A well-known philosophical tradition teaches that people are not disturbed by events themselves, but by the opinions they form about those events. The same situation can produce calm acceptance in one person and deep frustration in another. The difference is not the situation. The difference is the interpretation. Another ancient teaching explains that suffering grows when the mind clings to how things should be instead of how they are. When reality does not match expectations, the mind becomes restless and tense. This hidden habit of resisting reality appears in countless small moments. You are stuck in traffic and immediately feel irritated. Someone criticizes you, and the mind replays the moment again and again. Plans change unexpectedly, and the mind refuses to adapt. You make a mistake and spend hours blaming yourself. These moments seem ordinary, but together they slowly drain your peace. The mind becomes a constant battlefield between what is happening and what you wish were happening, and the more you fight reality, the more exhausted you feel. Peace begins when this battle ends. This does not mean liking everything that happens. Acceptance does not mean approval. It simply means recognizing what is already true. When you accept reality as it is, your energy is no longer wasted on resistance. That energy becomes available for wise action. A storm arrives. You cannot stop the storm, but you can decide how to respond to it. When the mind stops arguing with reality, clarity appears. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you begin asking, "What can I do now?" Instead of replaying the past, you focus on the next useful step. Instead of imagining worst-case scenarios, you return attention to the present moment. Many philosophical traditions emphasize this same principle. You cannot control everything that happens in life, but you can control how you interpret events and how you respond to them. Your reactions shape your inner world. The habit of resistance creates frustration, anger, anxiety, and constant dissatisfaction. The habit of acceptance creates resilience, clarity, and calm strength. Imagine two people facing the same challenge. One spends hours complaining, blaming others, and wishing the situation were different. The other quickly accepts the situation and begins searching for solutions. Both experience the same reality, but one wastes energy fighting it while the other uses energy working with it. Peace is not created by perfect circumstances. It is created by the ability to meet imperfect circumstances with a steady mind. Another important source of inner conflict is comparison. The mind constantly measures life against the lives of others. Someone else appears more successful, more attractive, more accomplished. The mind immediately creates a story that you are falling behind. But comparison is another form of arguing with reality. Your life unfolds according to your own path, your own experiences, your own timing. When the mind constantly measures itself against others, it becomes impossible to feel satisfied. Gratitude disappears. Appreciation disappears. Everything begins to feel insufficient. Peace returns when attention shifts away from comparison and toward awareness. Instead of asking, "How do I compare with others?" you begin asking, "What is meaningful and valuable in my own life?" Another destructive habit is overthinking. The mind repeats conversations, replays mistakes, and imagines endless future problems. This creates the illusion that thinking more will create control, but most of the time, overthinking only magnifies anxiety. Many great philosophical traditions encourage a different approach. Observe your thoughts instead of becoming trapped inside them. A thought is simply a mental event. It is not always a reliable description of reality. When you create space between yourself and your thoughts, something powerful happens. You gain the ability to choose which thoughts deserve attention and which ones can pass. This skill is the foundation of inner freedom. Peace is not the absence of problems. Peace is the ability to remain steady in the presence of problems. Life will always contain uncertainty. Plans will fail. People will disappoint you. Unexpected events will change your direction. But none of these experiences have to destroy your peace. The hidden habit that destroys peace is the belief that life must match your expectations in order for you to feel calm. When you release that belief, something remarkable happens. You become adaptable. You become resilient. You become capable of facing life with patience instead of panic. A calm mind does not mean a passive life. Acceptance allows action. When you stop resisting reality, you begin working with it intelligently. You solve problems faster because your mind is not clouded by anger or frustration. You make clearer decisions because you are not trapped in emotional reactions. You respond instead of reacting. This shift may sound simple, but it requires practice. The mind has spent years building the habit of resistance. Changing that habit requires awareness. The first step is noticing when the mind begins arguing with reality. Pay attention to the moments when you say, "This should not be happening." Ask yourself a simple question. Is fighting this situation helping me? Most of the time, the answer will be no. The next step is acceptance. Take a breath and acknowledge the situation as it is, not as you wish it were, not as you fear it will become, simply as it is right now. Once acceptance appears, the mind becomes clearer. Now you can choose the most useful response. Sometimes the best response is action. Sometimes it is patience. Sometimes it is letting go. But every wise response begins with accepting reality. Inner peace is not a distant destination. It is a daily practice. Each moment gives you a choice. You can resist reality and create tension, or you can accept reality and create clarity. The hidden habit of resistance quietly destroys peace because it turns every challenge into a battle. But life was never meant to be a constant battle. When you stop fighting what already exists, you discover something surprising. Peace was not missing. It was simply buried beneath resistance. And once that resistance begins to fade, the mind becomes lighter, calmer, and far more capable of navigating the complexities of life.